Thanks, everybody. Moose Rosenfeld, NIA Houston. In 2019, I had two members in two different businesses, one in IT managed services and the other was phone and cabling. And they met months and months prior to our monthly business meeting. And I'm wondering what was going on with the two of them while they were discussing a merger. And in July of 2019, they formed their two companies, and they're absolutely killing it today. The company is Unetic, and Eileen Ty, managing partner, Troy Stanton, formerly with Nuvos IP. And today, guys, they are just absolutely killing it. And to my knowledge, it was Network and Action's first business marriage, and I'm really proud of that.
I have a bank client who she works at a bank, not to be confused. And she is the regional director in charge of all of the salespeople in her territory here in Texas. The bank got bought out about 10 days ago, and she called me and said, "Tony, you're not going to believe I got the best compliment." And so she proceeded to tell me that they told her the reason they bought the Texas market is because of their strength in retail. The bank that bought them was already strong in lending and commercial business, but not in retail. And she said, and I owe that all to you and Scott and Network and Action, because we put all of our employees in Network and Action groups. They now feel like they bought us because of the retail business that we were able to drive in the last year. And she gave us full credit for that.
Tony, that's incredible. I got goosebumps. I mean, she called me as well to thank me for you and for Helen and for everybody that's got bankers in the groups. It's incredible. This is a multi-million-dollar purchase that the day it happened, she was riding around with the guy that was in charge of the acquisition. And she was talking about Network and Action to him. And he said, it's such a great story. So thank you for that introduction and for making that all happen.
That she said he is committing money to sponsoring whatever we put in front of her.
Perfect. Hey, Scott Marker. I run the Network and Action out of Meridian, Idaho, Treasure Valley NIA. I have 3 groups, and one of my big success stories is back when COVID happened. It's tough finding places, so one of my members owned a huge venue so it could spread out, multi-level. It worked really good. And he actually visited another group, which had another banker in there named Charlie. And he just said, after kind of talking with him, he said, "Scott, he's like next level. Do I have to use the banker?" And the guy said, "You can use whoever you feel most comfortable with." Well, long story short, he was trying to sell this venue in a hurry so he could buy an RV park and some other stuff up in another little town up in northern Idaho. And my banks turned him down. My banker had investors within the group, rather, because no bankers could do it fast enough. He didn't have, everything wasn't in line. So my banker got an investor to help him do this transaction. And then a year later, I bump into the guy. His name's Joe, and he's at a chamber event. He says, "Hey, Scott, I want to thank you because Charlie made me a millionaire." He said he helped me leverage real estate and show me what it is. And then since then, he's bankable now. And Charlie continually tells me he's getting another loan for another business he's buying. So it's a multi-million-dollar situation out of our group.
Okay, so I'll tell a couple real quick ones, snippets. One, I'm Shannon McGee. I'm franchise owner in Nashville, Tennessee. I have 5 groups. One of them is a national virtual. I had somebody that was actually a potential custom software, very complex custom software company that was looking to join my national group. And when they were vetting our groups, they got introduced to another IT, and I believe one of Scott's groups. He joined, they headed off. About 6 months later, they closed a deal that the last I heard was $286,000. custom software for a big national healthcare company. I've also had a couple of members, a leadership coach and a business consultant that met at my group. They're actually no longer members because they're so busy, but they formed a company together and they have started mutual clients together. And this all came out of the opportunity on where they met here. And then my last short story is I have a couple of recruiters, different spaces. They met at one of my member socials. And they have become accountability partners and they meet every week and share ideas to help each other grow their business. And they met outside of the group because they hold the same category within their group. And so the member socials opportunity for people to meet members across the broader community has been really impactful. And I get a lot of positive feedback about it.
Fantastic. Awesome. Who else? I'll tell one while you think. I love this story. So Scott Talley in Houston, Texas. I went in to pick a restaurant to hold our meetings at. It was completely empty. I always like to go during the time I want to host the meeting. So that's a little tip. If you go to a restaurant at 3 o'clock on Thursday and there's no one in it, then it's hard for them to say that it's occupied or they need to charge me a fee because they have no income coming in. So this particular lady said, yes, let me introduce you to our banquet person. Our banquet person came forward and said, I need to pay $500 minimum every month. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I said, I don't think I'm making myself clear. I don't want to pay for a meeting. You're in the hospitality business. I want to bring people, business owners who are going to bring their employees and their customers to come eat. Thank you anyway. And I felt like saying I'll go to one of the other 225 restaurants within 2 miles of here, but I kept my mouth shut. Yeah, the corner of my eye, I saw a gentleman sitting over at a laptop. And I said, oh, is that the owner? And she goes, yeah, he's the general partner. I walked straight over to him. I introduced myself. And I said, listen, here's what I want. You're in the hospitality business, and I've got a bunch of business owners and decision makers. We want to come together once a month. I pointed to the room back there, that room that's empty. And I said, I'm going to buy everybody a drink and appetizer. I said, it's not going to break the bank for you. I said, I'll probably spend a couple $100, $225. But I said, they'll all stick around and drink. So you're probably talking about $400 or $500 once a month. Fast forward to today, he attributed over $227,000 worth of business from Network in Action last year, because my lady that does social media hosts events every month and she gets 25 to 30 people there and they buy lunch. We take another Network in Action group there the first Tuesday of every month, the second Tuesday of every month at lunch, and they buy lunch. 3 or 4 other Network in Action groups go. My lady that runs a funeral home hosted a dinner there for 100 people. My IT guy had an event he needed to have for family and had 60 people from Ecuador there. So it's not the fact that it's going to be one group coming for an hour and a half. It's the exposure that the restaurant gets to a group of people that spend money. So that was a great restaurant story, and love telling that.
And I'd like to share a story about a member who joined when I first bought the franchise. She stayed a member for 4 years. She's a self-proclaimed introvert, hates networking, hates working with people, but she is a trainer, and she just struggled with the networking, but she pushed through and she was an excellent member for several years. At the end of her membership, she started to question what was her purpose, where was she going, what was she supposed to be doing with her life. And she's midlife age. So it was like she needed to figure something out. And I asked her, had she ever taken a look at franchising? And she had not, and not to my surprise. So she had not. And so I introduced her to a franchise consultant. And long story short, she is about to close on her franchise. It is a school fundraising concept, which is such a departure from who she is, but she is so excited. Network in Action changes lives. Making one connection can change the trajectory of someone's life. And so connecting her to the franchise consultant led her down the path to now she's getting ready to be a franchise owner. Wow. Network in Action really works.
Thank you.
Angela Obert, Network in Action, Minnesota. So I'm on the north side of our fabulous Kim Sukalas. So I also want to piggyback a little bit on what Shannon says. I do a lot of collaboration and stuff together with all 4 of my groups. I started something called Monthly Momentum. So NAA Monthly Momentum, we meet the last Thursday of the month for lunch, and for 2 hours, as many people from all 4 groups can show up. At one of the meetings, I have 35 people. The restaurant's awesome at everybody having their own tab. What came out of that is not only all of my clients and members that are super happy that they get to play with other people in other groups, but also some of the women in the groups have started their own, like, once a quarter and women's empowerment for small business, and have grown that up to about 75 members, and they meet in the evenings quarterly. So there's a lot of strength in collaborating and just allowing your members to be together in all 4 groups, that we're all here to not be competitive, but we all have our unique strengths, and that's super helpful when you're open as a facilitator to bring them all together. So it's been a lot of people have gotten more referrals that way than from the actual meetings.
Okay, so I had a member in my group that was basically, she was a headhunter, and she had indicated to me that networking wouldn't work once a month because she really had come from a long history, the background of that other organization. And I said, well, you don't have to worry about it, because I'm going to guarantee you, at that time, $17,000 worth of business. She had a 10x return. And so she joins the group. She comes to a couple meetings, doesn't have the best attitude. I don't think she's giving very much. And all of a sudden, a member of the group introduced her to her sister, who was in HR for some large oil companies. They worked at Baker Hughes, had worked at Neighbors and other big oil companies in Houston. And she later told me that the largest referral commission she made in the last 5 years was from the referral at Network in Action. And it wasn't the member sitting in the room. Remember, it's the people they know. And it was the sister of a member who was in hiring for these other different organizations.
And I wanted to share a success story of a member that I met at the worst networking event ever. It was horrible. It was over 300 people there. It was at a country western bar. It was loud. And as I'm leaving the joint, because I was like done with it, I spot her across a crowded room. I go over to her, I introduce myself, and we booked a date on the spot. I had owned my Network in Action for at least 1 whole week by that point. So when we met a few days later, I invited her to become a part of Network in Action. And she said, I really can't afford it, but my spirit tells me I need to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and take my bill money, girl, and I'm going to get signed up. And she did. A month or so later, she disappeared from the meeting. And it turns out that she literally did take her bill money and sign up for Network in Action because her lights got cut off. And so I helped her get her lights back on. And she began to share what was going on. She was a life insurance agent, and the company she was with was not a good company. So I introduced her to a new company, and she excelled at that company 2 years in a row to become their top agent in the country. She has since moved on from that and decided her son died. Her brother died as a teenager, and it was an awful experience for her family planning his funeral. And she always wanted to be in the funeral business. So through mentorship with me, she decided to go into the funeral business. I introduced her to someone that was in my network who works in the funeral business. And today she has become a funeral director, and she is working in that business. And look, somebody got to do it. And so all of that happened through relationships. She's also one of my dearest friends. She's a spiritual sister to me now. She also is a part of my family. taking care of my grandkids as auntie and another daughter for my mother. All because I saw her across a crowded room and she took a chance, took a risk, took her bill money, invested in Network in Action. It was life changing for her. So, and for me and for my family. So there you go. Networking works.
Scott Marker, Meridian, Idaho. I have 3 groups. And one of my former members that got really busy and left their group, but he was in there for 3 years. Great guy, him and his son to run an insurance company. Anyway, my wife had been looking for the same place for 19 years and was looking for a new job. Kind of was lost. 3 months doing interviews and not happy. Anyway, I just said, "Hey, you want me to help you out?" So I posted that my wife was looking for a job, and within 10 minutes, one of the owners called me up, the dad, and just said, Mike said, "Hey, you think your wife would like to work here?" I went, "I know she would, because I know him and what a great way he treats his employees and stuff." And so anyway, my wife called back, interviewed the next day, hired her the next day. So there's a success story.
Very good. That reminds me of a story, Scott, where we had a lady show up about 4 months ago as a guest at one of our meetings. And she said, I heard about this. I don't know. She didn't know anyone. She said, "I just decided to come because I know I need to get out and network if I'm going to look for a job." And I thought, this is sort of different, but okay. And so literally she got up and talked about what she was looking for. True story here. She sat down, and a lady that had been in the maid service business for a long time and has been a member of both Lisa Rosenfeld and Moose's groups, multiple people. She turned to her and said, "Here's my business card. Will you call me? You might be the perfect fit," because she was looking for someone with a personality that would go out and network. She saw that this lady was willing to show up without knowing anyone. She hired her, and she's been working for that maid service. It's a member of Network in Action, and now she has joined a Network in Action group as well. So it's not all about referrals. It can be about lots of other things in life.
I want to share one of my success stories that came from a member that was, I live this every day and it blew my mind. So I have a member that was a coaching client first, and then she also joined Network in Action, and she works for a local bank. The local bank just got bought out, and she called me and she said, "Tony, you're not going to believe this." "What, girl? What?" She said, "I got the best compliment ever." She said that the new leadership of the new bank said that they bought the local Texas market because of her and her team. Now, let me tell you, when she started coaching with me, she did not have networking skills. She did not know how to teach her team how to network. So based on what she learned from coaching with me and being a part of Network in Action and putting all of her team in Network in Action across the city, they excelled in the retail division of their bank. The bank that bought them was already strong in commercial and lending, but not in retail. And they point blank said if it had not been for the retail, they would not have bought that division, and it was all her. And so what I loved about the story is that she, being a part of Network in Action and putting her team in different groups around the city, helped boost their deposits. And it was all through relationships. The biggest part of this is she's getting a great retention bonus to stay on board. So amazing success story. And she's now one of my dearest friends, and we have a close personal relationship as well. Couldn't have seen any of this coming, but networking truly works and is in action with this client.
A gentleman by the name of Tom Reed and another gentleman by the name of George Williams, who I've known for quite a few years now. Tom was in, both of them were in the copier business, and as the copier business started declining, Tom was faced with nearly bankruptcy, to be honest with you. He lost 3 clients, and nothing that he did. At any rate, he did a pivot into the copier, into the desktop label printers. He went on Lisa's and my networking on the high seas cruise. He hired a business coach that was in our group. He took the business assessment software, which I think is really interesting, and he thought that his strength was marketing. It turns out it wasn't. He wasn't spending enough in ad spend on Google. He went from 5,000 to 20,000 to 70,000 a month. He went from about 100,000 a month now to $1.2 million a month, and he's growing like crazy. And he attributes it to Network in Action and all the contacts that he's made and the people that he's hired. It works. And I always say 90% of life is showing up, and they do. And when you show up, Tony, you know this, good things happen. So there are so many success stories out there. It's unreal.
As
Go
we
ahead, Tony.
speak, my name's Tony Harris Taylor, and I am Network in Action franchisee in Northeast Houston, and I run 2 virtual international groups. As we speak, I am sitting in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, with Network in Action members. And what I've realized is what we do is so much bigger than connections or business referrals. It is family. It becomes family. It becomes community. And the aha moments, the love that's been shared between the people who showed up to this event. And that will not be lost, right? They will all remember Network in Action brought them together, and these relationships will last. I believe they'll last a very, very long time. So thank you, Scott, for bringing Network in Action, because it's more than business, it becomes family.
Sure. I love the big stories, right? I think those are important. But I just remember within the first 30 days, the ballroom, the event venue space, we added a P&C agent, property and casualty insurance agent. In the first 30 days, he was able to save the ballroom $6,000 in annual cost and get him better coverage. So the agent won because he made a sale, and the ballroom was like, I've already earned my investment because I just saved $6,000 in the first 30 days. So like, sometimes selling somebody something is the win that they need.
I have a CPA in one of my groups, and think about a CPA. They're sitting there doing taxes for all of you, hundreds of clients. This guy has over 300 clients. He said that he could care less if he ever gets a referral, but that no matter what is on the books, when he's sitting there sort of playing therapist to his client, and they're saying, oh my God, my marketing budget's out of whack, or I need a new website, or God, if I don't get this hiring down right, I'm going to lose this company. Whatever they're complaining about, he knows he has a trusted source within his network somewhere that he can refer. And it gives him great comfort because he's bringing thousands of dollars worth of value to his clients. And he knows that those people are not going to leave his organization because of the help they get, in addition to he does their taxes on time. So it's not always about the referrals.